in contrast to all of you, I am utterly delighted. My only proviso being that I hope that they have as nice a life here as they did in California. I am all for it. They were hounded out of this country by the media, egged on by the royal palaces. They were bounced out, and they've made the best of it. And they have been such a loss. If you look at the contents of the palace balcony for a fly past, there's nobody there. I mean, there's all between sort of 60 and death, basically. You know,
that's not true. I mean, we've had Louis. Louis's a big draw. George, you've got all
but they're not. I know they're not coming back as working royals, but I bet you after the Invictus Games, Harry will be. He is. I'm sure Cameron will confirm this. I've not seen him in person. I've never met him. But the way he handles a crowd, the ability, the affinity he has with people, that's like his mother. And he is a natural performer, unlike William, who is, in my eyes, kind of entitled and rather pompous. And I have said for a long time now that what I would like to see is Henry IX.
Right, you'd make him king.
I would. Right. I said it half an hour ago in the green room.
Nothing if not consistently.
Yeah.
Nothing. But
might be a few.
Let's get into it. Before we get to the quotes, context matters. Nina Myskow isn't some unknown commentator wheeled in for a hot take. She's a veteran broadcaster, a long-time fixture of British media, and she has appeared regularly on GB news panels. A channel that, let's be honest, has built a significant chunk of its identity on being sceptical of, if not outright hostile to, the Sussexes. This is not Sussex Squad. This is not an American daytime panel show. This is a British broadcaster on a British right-leaning news channel, sitting in a room full of people who were clearly expecting a very different conversation. And what did she do? She didn't hedge. She didn't do the usual "I support them but" routine that so many commentators use before pivoting into a takedown. She came out and said, in essence, "I'm delighted. I hope they have as nice a life here as they did in California." Sit with that for a second. As nice a life as they did in California. Not, "I hope they finally come to their senses." Not, "I hope they behave themselves this time." She acknowledged on air that their life in California was good, that leaving wasn't some tragic downfall the tabloids love to paint it as. It was a life, a good one, and she's hoping the UK can match it. That's the frame the rest of her comments sit inside, and it only gets better from there. Here's the part that should be replayed on a loop until it sinks in for anyone still pretending this is a mystery. Myskow said, plainly, that Harry and Meghan were hounded out of this country by the media, and that the royal palaces egged it on. Squaddies, we have said this for years. We have said it when it wasn't popular. We have said it while being called deranged, obsessed, delusional. You know the list, you've heard the insults. Some of you have probably been called them yourselves in the comments section of some tabloid article. And here is a mainstream broadcaster on GB News saying the exact same thing we've been saying since 2020. Not they left because they couldn't hack royal life. Not they wanted fame and fortune. Hounded out, egged on by the palaces. That is a direct accusation that the institution, the firm, the very people who are supposed to protect their own family members, actively participated in creating the conditions that pushed Harry and Meghan out of the country. This is the receipts moment, squaddies. This is why we keep the timeline. Because for years the narrative machine tried to convince the public that Meghan was the villain, that Harry was weak for following her, that the palace was the innocent victim of two selfish runaways. And bit by bit, broadcaster by broadcaster, even people who work inside institutions built to protect the palace's image are starting to say what we've known all along. This was never a fair fight. It was a coordinated campaign, and the family that should have shielded them instead threw them to the wolves. Now, here's where Myskow got genuinely savage, and I mean that as the highest compliment. She pointed out something that the palace desperately does not want people thinking about too hard. Look at who's actually left on that balcony for the big royal moments. The flypasts, the parades, the trooping the colour appearances. Her exact point was that when you look at who's up there, you're looking at a lineup that skews heavily toward one end of the age spectrum or the other, the very senior royals and the very young children, with a conspicuous gap where the working, charismatic, mid-generation royals should be. And whose fault is that? The institutions. They pushed out, arguably, the two most globally recognisable, most charismatic members of the family in a generation, and then acted shocked when the balcony started looking a little thin on star power. One of the panelists tried to push back, pointing out that the young princes still draw a crowd. Fair enough. Kids are always a draw. But that's not really the argument, is it? The argument is that the firm had two adults who could fill stadiums, sell out arenas, command global headlines with genuine warmth and charisma. And they let them walk. Worse than let them walk. According to Myskow, they helped push them out the door. OK, squaddies, this is the clip. This is the 15 seconds that is going to be quoted for months. Myskow was asked about Harry's ability to connect with a crowd, and she didn't just praise him. She used it as a This is not a Sussex Squad talking point. This is not something we invented. This is a British broadcaster with decades of industry experience making a direct on-air public comparison. And Harry won. Comprehensively. We've talked before about the media's obsession with framing William as the stable, reliable, future king archetype, and Harry as the erratic wildcard who couldn't hack it. This clip blows a hole straight through that framing. Because when you strip away the institutional PR machine, when you strip away the palace-friendly headline writers, and you just ask who actually has star power, the answer, according to someone who works in this industry, who has covered this family for decades, was not close. And then, just when you think it can't get any more chaotic for the palace's preferred narrative, Myskow drops this. She'd like to see Henry IX. She's saying it plainly. She wants Harry to be king, not as a joke tossed off in the moment either. She confirmed she'd already said the same thing in the green room half an hour earlier. Consistent, on and off camera. Now, squaddies, I want to be careful here, and I want you to be careful too when you clip this and share it. This isn't a serious constitutional panelist is publicly, repeatedly saying she'd rather see Harry on the throne than William on air. Twice. That's not a small thing. That's a signal about how at least some segment of the British commentariat, people whose entire job is reading the public mood, actually feel underneath the institutional talking points they're paid to repeat. The gap between what gets printed in the tabloids and what people actually say when they let their guard down for 30 seconds on live television. That gap is where the real story lives. Now let's talk about how this landed with the people who've been paying attention. Because the reaction has been fascinating, and I want to walk you through a few threads of it. First, there's the shock. A lot of people online expressed genuine surprise that GB News let this segment air at all. The sentiment was something like, "How did this get through?" There's a recognition that this channel doesn't usually let commentary this sympathetic to the Sussexes go out unchallenged, which tells you something about how organic and unscripted this moment really was. Second, there's the vindication. For years, people who've defended Harry and Meghan have been told they're imagining the media pile-on, that it's all in their heads, that the tabloids were just reporting the news. And now here's a panelist live on air confirming the exact thing the squad has said from day one, that they were hounded, and that the institution didn't just fail to protect them, it participated. Third, and this is the part I find most interesting, there's real grounded caution mixed in with the celebration. Plenty of people pointed out that any reported plans for Harry and Meghan to spend more time in the UK shouldn't be taken as confirmation of some grand royal reconciliation tour until it's confirmed through their own team. Others raised a genuinely important point. Given everything this family has been through with unchecked British tabloid conduct, of course there's nervousness mixed in with the hope. Nobody wants to see history repeat itself. And fourth, there's a theory that's been circulating that deserves its own conversation for another day. The idea that tension inside the firm about succession, image and control has been simmering long before any of this became public. We're not going to speculate wildly on that here, but it's worth noting that even the idea is being discussed openly now, in public, by people who aren't afraid to say what they think. Here's the bigger picture, squaddies, and I want you to really absorb this part. For years, the narrative war around Harry and Meghan has operated on an uneven playing field. The tabloids control the headlines. The royal rota controls access. Friendly commentators get platformed, critical voices get buried, and any pushback from Harry and Meghan themselves gets labelled as airing dirty laundry or attacking the family, while the family's own machine leaks and briefs against them with total impunity. But moments like this, one, matter because they happen outside of that controlled system. Nina Myskow wasn't reading from a Sussex-approved press release. She was reacting live in real time on a channel that has no institutional incentive to make Harry and Meghan look good. And she still ended up saying the media hounded them, the palace egged it on, and Harry has more natural charisma than William. When the truth starts leaking out, even through the cracks of hostile media environments, that's not an accident. That's what happens when a narrative becomes too dishonest to maintain consistently, even among the people paid to maintain it. You can only tell people the sky is green for so long before someone on your own team looks up and says, actually, it's blue. So where does that leave the story going forward? If there is real substance to reports about Harry spending more time in the UK, about family reconnection, about a different chapter opening up, the tone of this GB news segment tells you something important. It tells you the ground may be shifting. Public sentiment, even inside spaces built to be sceptical of the Sussexes, is not as uniformly hostile as the tabloid headlines want you to believe. But I want to leave you with the same caution some of the sharpest voices in the replies raised. Hope is fine. Optimism is fine. But vigilance matters too. This family has been failed before by people who were supposed to have their back. If there is a path toward more time in the UK, more connection with family, more visibility, the media needs to be held to a different standard this time. Not the standard of 2018 to 2020, a higher one. And that's exactly what channels like this one exist to do, to hold up the receipts every single time someone tries to rewrite what actually happened. That's the breakdown, squaddies. A GB News panelist just handed us, unprompted, one of the most damning admissions we've heard from inside hostile media territory in a long time. Hounded out, egged on by the palace, more charisma in one hand than the heir has in his whole body, and a wish, repeated on air, to see Henry IX. If this video gave you something to hold on to, do me a favour. Hit subscribe, ring that notification bell, and drop a comment telling me what part of this clip hit you the hardest. Was it the entitled and pompous line? Was it hounded out? Was it Henry IX? I want to know. We've got more receipts coming this week, so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it. Until next time, squaddies. Stay sharp, stay skeptical of the machine, and stay Sussex strong.